Kirk looked a lot different in week 2, it felt like, than he did in week 1. Now, the Falcons also did different things, I think, to help him look different from week 2 to week 1. For example, they actually ran play action, had 9 play action plays this week compared to 0 that they had the week before. Also put Kirk under center, which he is used to. They ran 2 plays under center, one of which I believe was just a spike in week 1, and they ran 30 plays under center in week 2. So very different, more Kirk Cousins-esque, and I think that sort of empowered him to play the best ball that we've seen so far in this young season. Seth, what'd you think when you took a look at what Kirk Cousins was doing in a comeback win in Philadelphia on Monday night?
Yeah, I think schematically this is kind of different than the 2 other quarterbacks we talked about, where it's like there's like Zach Robinson coming from Los Angeles, coming from PFF.
Of course,
you get into a situation where the schematically there's guys open. There's a lot of guys open. Ray McLeod is open all the time. Darnell Mooney's open. Like, now it would be nice, I think, for a lot of people if Kyle Pitts was open more, but regardless.
Hey, he started the 2-minute drill. He got a catch in the 2-minute drill. He set the tone. That was the first place that they went to.
I think there's a lot, like, I'm getting off on a tangent here, but I just look at Cousins and like the way that he threw the ball to Hawkinson. It's like there's got to be a lot more Pitts targets coming out here somewhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I assume, but who knows? Anyways, the point is, guys are open. You have the scheme to get people open, and you have a really good contested catch receiver in Drake London when it's not super open, though he is a good route runner too, like he can get open too, but you have that type of player as well. It needs to be like this. I'm not like the difference when you look at, again, the 2 quarterbacks coming off leg injuries. I don't know if Kirk didn't have the most power. I think he was probably underrated in terms of his arm velocity, like the ball velocity. But now coming off this injury, it's hard. It's just a lot harder for him. Like that ball is tough to get out there for him. So he needs open receivers. And the scheme, I think, is going to help a lot. The offensive line, they should be able to run the ball. They were a good running team a couple of years ago, kind of fell off a bit last year. I think they're going to be good this year. Now, it helps when you go against the fake good run defense of the Philadelphia Eagles. But with Bijan, they're going to be fine going forward. I just wonder about that arm strength. I think the accuracy is probably pretty good, though the accuracy is going to take a hit when you can't get the ball out there. But I think the offense makes a lot of sense. I think what they're doing in terms of these kind of modern schemes, they run dagger. Dagger is basically a run-through route with a big in route behind it, and it's kind of like the modern play in football. Everyone's running it. All the smart teams are running it, and they get Ray McLeod. Like they get Ray McLeod open on these big in routes all the time. Like he's open all the time. So yeah, I like what's going on there. I just wonder, like, we know we didn't see the real offense against the Steelers in terms of the structure of it, because it's impossible to be an NFL team and to say, hey, every time we're in pistol, we're running the ball to the left on outside zone, and every time we're in gun, we're throwing it. Like that's too much easy tells for an NFL offense. So we kind of knew after that Steelers game that it wasn't quite what we were going to see on Monday night. And it wasn't. Like you said, they went under center, they play action. They kind of tried to get some easier throws. And I think if this is going to be the offense going forward, and I think it is, that's going to help Kirk Cousins. Now, the issue is he's going to have to be super efficient on every throw. Like the run game, they're kind of middle of the pack right now in terms of the percentage of runs that get tackled for no gain or a loss. I think you're obviously explosive with Bijan, but I would like it if they could find a way to be basically less. I mean, everyone wants this, but less tackles for loss or no gain, because I think there's probably some similarities to late career Drew Brees in terms of the arm strength. where the arm strength wasn't as much of a factor until the last year with Breeze, until like the year he retired. But the 3 years before that, the arm strength wasn't as much of a factor because they were always ahead of the sticks. They were so rarely they run the ball on 1st and 10. They would never go backwards, and Breeze would make all these correct decisions in the quick passing game, and just enough to get the defense up, and then they would throw over the top of them. So I think there's similarities there. Is it enough? Like, if this is the Kirk Cousins we're seeing with a drastic change in arm strength, is it enough? Can they be efficient enough? Like, he's not Drew Brees, so
Right.
can they be efficient enough to be a useful offense? That kind of remains to be seen, because I don't know if the Steelers are a good defense, probably. The Falcons are not a good defense. They haven't been a good defense in like a year. So look good, but they're going to play some better defenses, and then we'll see what happens there.
You know, I think after last night, I'm comfortable saying that we can't really judge Kirk and his lower body mechanics or ability really until probably like week 4 or week 5 of the season. And I know everybody kind of like wants to jump on things, but you mentioned week 1 is just it's an outlier for him, right? I mean, like the offense was designed for somebody that truly couldn't move. I mean, he kind of couldn't move in week 1, but things did look different in week 2. You're running a lot more play action. You're under center a lot more. He's kind of booting in and out, whether he's handing the ball off or not. And so that in and of itself was enough evidence. And when you look at first half numbers versus second half numbers, you see there 74.7 overall grade. He had a 59.6 passing grade in the first half against the Eagles. He had an 82.5 passing grade in the second half. And I think a lot of that goes into what a brilliant, 2-minute offense they were able to run there at the end of the game to score that touchdown. And hats off to Zach Robinson, and Kirk said this after the game, like, he just called all the plays that basically worked against what the Eagles were going to run in that 2-minute drill, and it was great to see. But it even looked like first half there wasn't as much juice in that arm, and then second half, like, it looked like somebody you could at least win with, like you could be capable with. But to your point, the margin for error for him is slimmer now at age 35, 36, whatever he is, coming off the Achilles injury. You talked about Atlanta's scheme. He talked about, like, running dagger concept and certainly being able to time that really well with getting guys open over the middle. Is there anything else specifically about the scheme? You mentioned sort of the styles and the talent of, like, Drake London and what he could do as a true X. Like, are there other things in the scheme that you just like about what Atlanta is doing?
That's all they do. That they run dagger like 35 times last night.
It
Like,
works. Well, if it's gonna work,
like, it's crazy. But it's like, I think that you get into a situation where the nice thing about this dagger concept is that it pairs well with other stuff. So it's a two-person concept that can be paired well to make it more useful than just as a two-person concept. So what they do a lot, and the first time I saw anyone do this was with the Packers with Rodgers, with LaFleur, and they'll pair like a quick passing concept to one side, and then you have the dagger concept to the other side. So what the quarterback is able to do is say, okay, this quick passing concept is not there. Well, first, if it's there, I throw it, and then we get a slant route or a flat route or whatever. It's all good. But if not, I can move my eyes towards the middle of the field. So if my quick pass concept is on the left, as I start moving my eyes to the right, those two routes in the dagger concept are coming towards me. So I don't have to strain myself to go, oh, I got to go from one sideline to the other sideline. All I'm doing is going from one sideline to the middle of the field. And the nice thing about this particular concept is that it's very adaptable, because it's really just that second route, the deep in route, is always going to be between the lines of defense. It's going to be in front of the safeties and behind the linebackers. It doesn't matter whether it's cover 3 or cover 4 or cover 6 or cover 8 or whatever. There are linebacker level and there's safety level, and that route is always going to hit between those two levels. So as you're coming back, it's like, oh, this route has we've given this route enough time to find that space between the two levels, and Kirk's able to kind of come back, reset his feet, and find that route. Again, it's like Ray McLeod has like 150 yards in 2 weeks on that, just like one concept. So I think it's just pairing concepts together, running the same thing over and over again. But it's I heard Lincoln Riley say this one time. He calls these type of plays all weather concepts, where it's like it's not necessarily designed against a certain coverage. It doesn't matter what coverage, because these are routes that find holes in, like I said, in between linebackers and safeties, no matter what. And you can just call these plays over and over again, and they're going to adapt as the defense plays itself out. So that to me is the main thing in the passing game. It's like, can we get the Chiefs to do that? Can we get Rodgers to do it again? The two quarterbacks we've talked about, but that's why this offense makes a lot of sense to me, and we'll see good play out of it, even if Kirk doesn't have as much juice anymore. Though I think there's still a chance that it comes, as he gets more games in there after the injury, that he figures it out and the juice comes back. Because like I said, I think Cousins probably underrated in terms of his arm talent. Like the guy played in the NFL for a long time. Like, you don't play in the NFL for a long time unless you have a real arm talent. He really does.
Right.
So I hope that they can get that back. But even without it, I do think that there's a chance, because of how good the scheme is and how good the kind of weapons are on the offensive line is, that it could be okay. Now, this division is a lot better than we thought it was going to be. So
yeah,
we'll
holy
see
cow.
that.
Well, for two of the teams, it's better than we thought.